Welcome to Season 2 of Under the Sisterhood. Over the 31 days of March, we are celebrating 31 Women's March of Voices during Women's History Month. We will have intimate conversations that will uncover each woman's superpower and find out how they use these superpowers to help other women. That's 31 days honoring 31 women and their superpowers. This is a podcast to celebrate women and all that they do in our world. I'm Elizabeth Elfenbein. Let's get under the hood. Today we are celebrating June Laffey. June is a sister, mother, global creative leader, executive creative coach, trailblazer, psychic channeler, and founder and owner of the TopiTopi Spiritual Retreat. Through her extraordinary career in advertising, June has created and championed globally awarded ideas, chaired the top international health award shows, helped build creative reputations, careers, and businesses. She is one of the world's most impactful and respected leaders in her field. June is now empowering creative leaders to be their best with her executive creative coaching business, Fun, For You Now. Her mission is to build a new generation of leaders who lead with their heart. But there's another side to June. She is also an extraordinarily gifted psychic who channels light language, song, and soul guidance. She is bringing her experience and intuitive gifts together at her newly founded Heavenly Retreat in Australia, dedicated to both healing of the soul and creative expansion. I'm incredibly honored to be celebrating June during Women's History Month. Welcome, June.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I sound very fancy pants there. Such a nice introduction. Thank you.
But you are fancy pants. And more importantly, you're one of those women, you made a lot of history in the healthcare advertising space, and you continue to make history with the amazing things you're doing to heal people and women across the world. So with that, why don't we get started? So June, so why don't you tell us your story? Why don't you start with your story and we'll begin the conversation and go on your journey with you.
Okay, so I was born in Great Yarmouth in England many years ago, though I'm not telling you how many. Great Yarmouth was an interesting place that it has more pubs per capita than any other place in the British Isles. And I think I visited them all at least once, many more than once. My life changed significantly when I decided to come to Australia when I was 22. I had been living in a squat in England in Russell Square, and my dad found out and begged me to come home. So I couldn't really do much in Great Yarmouth. So Australia seemed like a really good move at the time. I progressed and I went into advertising. I got a job pretty much straight away. And I had no idea of my potential, and I had no idea what was waiting for me. And life has just been an incredible journey. So I landed in Brisbane. I was there for, I think, 12 years. I met my soon-to-be husband, and we moved to Sydney. And in Sydney, I was working in advertising for probably 3 or 4 years. And then in 2000, I made a conscious decision to actually move into the space of healthcare, because I really believed that we could make a difference. And I still believe that. I still believe that if you put the right product in the right hands at the right time, or the right service or the right information, you can not only empower lives, you can save lives. So it became a real thing for me when I was looking at the quality of the healthcare advertising at that point. And I'm talking about over 20 years ago. It was like the poor man's cousin. It was the place where most people went, where they didn't have talent. And it wasn't good enough. Like, it just wasn't good enough. So I made it my mission to actually impact in that industry. And so it's very funny, because thinking back on it, I didn't actually realize that's what I was doing. But there was something that was driving me to actually be seen in the industry, to give the industry a voice, and to say, hey, we don't have to be second rate. We can, and we should, and we are now first rate. And so with that, it starts with the work, but before that, it actually starts with the people that you can have around you to actually mentor you, to actually help bring out the very, very best in you. The people that support great work, the clients that support great work. I'm a real big believer in you can't have brave work without brave clients. And so I was very fortunate. I started my new career in health on January the 1st, 2002. Had an incredible mentor then, Phil Brown. Uh, and the work that they were doing was pretty good. It was pretty good in Australia. Australia seemed to punch against above their weight. At that point, there was really only one awards competition. It was the Global Awards. So I set out to get myself on the jury, um, which was kind of funny in retrospect, because at that point the jury rooms was filled with North American men, some of them on Zimmer frames, like it seemed. They were so old. Not that there's anything wrong like that, but there really wasn't the diversity that we aim for in award competition these days. And so I was the female in the room, and because I had a voice, I wanted to actually show that us females don't have to be domineering, and don't have to be directive, and don't have to be egocentric to actually have a voice and to make sense and to see the work and to make the work better. And so with that, I became pretty known with the globals, and they asked me to do some judging for them, and help try and find different agencies in Australia for the judging. So I did that. I also rep New York festivals as well at the same point. And I came quite involved in the awards industry, not so I was particularly there to win my own awards, which I was very blessed in that I did, but really to raise the profile, because what I realized pretty early on is that the awards platform actually made healthcare work visible. Um, and so with that, Australia was punching again above their weight. And so what I did then was, I founded Bravo, which was the Globals Award show, with Phil and a couple of other people on the committee. And we pretty much ran that then for the next 10 years. But what happened, it was such a success. It was so amazingly successful because people wanted to celebrate the work. People wanted to get together as an industry and talk and connect. And there wasn't that. And so it was replicated in New York then. And from there, the different award shows started to happen. Clio Health, one show. And of course, Cannes Health Lions, that was really instigated by Jeremy Perot, who became not only an incredible mentor to me, but a wonderful, wonderful friend, and still is. And he and John Cahill from McCann Health were very instrumental in pushing that barrow forward, because they realised that that was the award show that was really going to make an even bigger impact on the world stage. So talking to Jeremy, I joined McCann Health in 2010, and I spent 10 years with that organisation, with that network. And we built a wonderful group, a wonderful family of creatives and people that really believed in the power of creativity from around the world. And so it was a true network, in that we all supported each other, that we all wanted to see the best for each other. So in an industry that can be very, very ego driven, there was this beautiful energy where creativity was the heartbeat of the network. And we really wanted to actually pull the work up and make the work as best it could be, and get the clients to, see the potential of what they had, because we do save lives with the right information and the right products. And so that was my mission. And so I started off at McCann Health in Australia. There was just me, and a couple of other creatives. There were a lot of medical writers at that point, but there were three creatives. And pretty soon, Jeremy had seen something in me that I didn't see in myself. He really believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and he encouraged me to really self, which kind of scared me.
Well,
I have to say, sorry, the
you
very
know,
first time I met.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
The very first time I met him, he said to me, "You're going to win a gold lion, or you're going to win a lion," he said. And I felt my bum clench. I'm like, "No, it's no way." I think 18 months later, I won a gold lion. So it's just that positivity and the passion of believing in someone actually holds them until they can hold themselves, and that's what I'm now bringing to my coaching business as well.
I
So
want
go
to,
ahead, Elizabeth.
yeah, I want to interject there and talk a little bit about this, because your journey has always been. I think it's really important to sort of highlight your journey has been a creative journey, a journey of getting to great with the work you do, with the people you surround yourself with, awards, of course. What awards do is sort of credentialize and validate the work we do, to your point, because what you did was help put healthcare advertising on the map when it was seen as the ugly stepchild. So I think that that's been fantastic. And by the way, everybody, I met June in the jury room of the Globals in New York City 15 years ago, probably. So that's when we first became connected, and you were just very powerful. But I think not only did you have a voice in the room, and I think these are some of the important things, June, you had a voice in the room, but you were really good at like asking the question versus just putting out a question so that you opened up a room. Because to June's point, most of our jury rooms at the time were probably, at that time it would have been her, I think we were the first two together, maybe a third with Robin came in either then or thereafter. And so I think that that changed things, but I think that your commitment to creativity, and I want to sort of talk about that to you as a human being, because you're going to talk about your coaching in a minute, but like who you are as a woman. And, that was the job you did, and you did a tremendous job. But in your heart and soul is this creative light. So talk a little bit about that before you move on to your journey in terms of what you're doing today with your creativity.
Sure. So creativity for me is is the source of all life. I mean, it's part of our energetic field. We hold it in our sacrum. Uh, Creativity shows people different ways of doing things. It actually moves the world around. It's innovation. Um, we wouldn't progress as a species if we didn't if one or two of us didn't start thinking differently and finding ideas and connecting dots. So it's it's a fundamental it's a fundamental part of our progression as humans. But more than that, it's something that for me it excites me. It excites me. I've got this way of judging the work, and I've been doing it now for probably 10 years, and it's head, heart, hands. So if you see a creative idea and you think it's smart, if you think it's cerebral, it really makes you think about what it's trying to do. It gets me in the head. If it's um, if it's heart, it's raising an emotion in you. It doesn't make me jealous. I wish I'd done that. It doesn't make me angry that this stuff is going on. It doesn't make me happy that this idea has brought a smile to my face. It doesn't make me sad that someone has to suffer in this way, and seeing another aspect of humanity. So if it raises an emotion, it ticks the box of heart. And then the final part is hands. And that's, I suppose, what people now call craft. And there's whole craft juries now in award shows. Um, has has the idea been held? Has it been shaped and molded to be the very best it can be? Has it been simply put out there in the best state it possibly can be because there was care and that someone really felt the idea viscerally in their hands?
I
And
like that.
so, yeah, it's 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 served me really well, because the thing with creativity as well is it's a choice, right? Like, it's a choice about whether you like an idea or you don't. But also, I think it's also a gut instinct. And instinct and intuition is, I believe, creative's greatest gift. That if they find an idea, if they pluck an idea from the universe and they know there's something in it and they know it's different and they know the client's going to be scared and they know they can see the potential of it, they don't know that. They feel that. And so they actually act with their hearts, right? And their bodies. Like, sometimes when you hear an idea, you get goosebumps, right? I do. Or I go, that is amazing. That's amazing. And sometimes you have an idea half formed, and you and the creatives, when they bring the creative to you, you are looking at it and going, this is so good, but it's not quite working. And you just pop it in the toaster and you see what pops up. You can't bully an idea into submission. It's got to come naturally and it's got to make its entrance. And sometimes that takes a little bit of time. So there's so many aspects of creativity for me that drives me as a human being. And I really believe that we're all creative, which you actually encourage everyone to live their creativity. We do it anyway when we put on our makeup in the morning, if we put on makeup, the way we dress, what we choose to cook, how we choose to design our gardens, how we read, what we input into our psyche so we can export. That's all creativity.
Mm.
And we all have that. But,
What age?
you know,
But
just because you're
yeah, I mean, keep going. But then I kind of want to know, what age did you see? Like, did you see that in yourself? Because you're right, we do all have that. But keep going.
um I suppose when I was 13, I decided I was a punk.
Like a punk
So I
rocker or
used
just
to
a
wear
punk?
a punk rocker.
Okay, thank
So I
you.
used to wear plastic, much to my poor mother. My poor mother. I used to wear plastic skirts and footless tights, and I'd squiff my hair up, and I wanted to be, I'd paint my face. I just wanted to be really different. Um, and I didn't know what that was at that time. Um, I just didn't know. So I suppose that's my first real expression of me in the real world. Um, but it really wasn't until probably I joined McCann that I really actually, I was always creative, but I really actually felt into what it is to be creative. So it was there and it was simmering away, but I don't think I realized the potential of what it is that we do and what we hold in our hands in a work situation. Um, and that's why I think our industry is so incredibly blessed to actually have found my way into this industry, because every day we get to play with ideas, we get to work with incredible people, um, we get to hone things. And I know it has challenges. I know that research, and sometimes clients that love the work, but they don't feel that they can run it because it's too out there, but they love it. And it's always that it's always that that reality of having to push along the permission to be creative, one idea at a time. And different agencies do that, and they do it really well. And different people do that um, really well.
You were one of those
Hmm.
people. I mean, I think what's interesting, June, is like I'm only giving this thought now in this moment of hearing you tell your story about being in this advertising world. But I kind of think that creativity is born in us, and it either comes alive and gets activated and ignited, and we take it somewhere. And to your point, there's many capacities you can take it into. You might end up in advertising. You could end up designing gardens, or what have you, or beautiful meals, or whatever it may be. But I think that you were clearly gifted at that at a very young age, and you found this path, or you went on this journey. And so I think that that's something, and it's cool, because the other thing is like, either, our parents create these runways for us and we get to go on this journey, or we find it on our own. How did you, so 13, you were a punk rocker, meaning you wanted to be punk, you were rebellious, you were finding out who you were, not recognizing at the time that this self-expression was your creativity. At what stage did you, like, and I know that you leaned into your creativity when you got to McCann, but clearly you were moving along that path. And tell us about some of those pivotal moments, or within that journey.
Okay, so I think another moment was when I was at uni, and I decided that I wanted I wanted to be part of Sheffield City Press, which was the university rag mag. And the reason I wanted to be part of it is because I wanted to get into concerts for free. And so I and my friend Louise, who was beautiful, and she'd get in anywhere. We very early on we interviewed Boy George and Culture Club, and then we wrote about it. And I realized then, and this is what happens, like you find your stride. I realized then I really loved writing. So when I went into advertising, I actually thought that I actually wanted to be in account service, but my first job was as a creative, because they saw all of the creative stuff that I'd been writing, and they said, "Hey, you're a natural writer." And so that was a massive moment for me. Um, and if I'm totally honest, Elizabeth, for many years, in this is a secret squirrel, for many years in my career, I really didn't think I was much good. I really didn't believe I was any good. Um, and I think I hit my stride when, as I said, Jeremy started. Jeremy believed in me, and he could see me, and so um, I think that was a turning point for me, that I did believe in myself. And to be honest, I think I'm a better creative leader than I am a creative.
I think you're
I
pretty
really do.
freaking good at both. I think you're pretty good at both. But I want to say something, June. I think that all creatives, I mean, we're really, while we have big egos, there's this sensitivity and self-criticism in brain creative. And so I would always think, oh, I'm good, not great. Like, I'm good. I'm like, B plus, A minus. I'm not quite there yet. I mean, I was always and I think, and then add being a woman to that, which just puts you, men seem to have a much greater sense of self, regardless if they're as good or not. And so I think that women we're really hard on ourselves. And if you're not getting, and I think our generation, I mean, I did not have not one female mentor in my career. I had one or two male mentors. One, Tony Zulis, a great guy in my Saatchi days. He was wonderful. He saw my creativity and my potential, and he didn't even help me. You know what he did when I was pregnant? He took me out for eggs every morning, so I had a healthy baby. I mean, he did like crazy things, but he was there for me. But it was a hard time, I think, our time, in terms of getting that mentorship. So to have someone like Jeremy believe in you, so women were kind of like on their own, like fighting just to be seen in a way and have their work be seen. So would you agree with that? I mean, I don't know if Australia
Yeah,
was much different.
I think I know that women are a lot more self-effacing, especially in our industry, and there seems to be more humility still, I believe, generally. Whether it's a big smoke screen and show and males are the same as us. And this is a huge generalization. And there are certain incredible people that are very humble. Tim Jones is one of them, who is just a brilliant, brilliant creative. There was not, and there still is not, enough female leaders in our industry. And again, this is one of the reasons why I've started the coaching business. I think the award shows have tried very hard to help even it up by having juries that are more equal. But the fact of the matter is, it's very, very hard to find good up and coming females because there's not enough coming into the industry still, and there's not enough that have been through the whole process and are willing to give of their time, because they then get really big jobs, and the ones that are good, and some of them just don't have time to be that mentor as well. So I think there is a massive opportunity. The more diverse we are in terms of not just female, male, but age, race, culture, the more we actually bring into the reality of the ideas. So they're not super clean or hygienic. They're actually reflecting real life. And different cultures think differently from each other. And so I love it when I go into any kind of jury room or I see any kind of work that tackles a problem I had no idea that existed, and does it from a way that I would never have thought of. I think it's amazing. But if we don't employ with diversity and acceptance, then we're not going to get that. One of the things that I tried to do, and I never quite got it off the ground, but if anyone's listening out there, do it. I've always, working in health, I've always wanted to have people within our organization that are in some ways health challenged. So, for example, they have done it in McCann, Tel Aviv, I think it was.
Yep,
They actually had, yeah, they had a beautiful man who has cerebral palsy, and he had such an incredible insight with his team because of how he lives his life, and had one of the most amazing ideas that came out of that. The IKEA disables furniture additions that help people get in and out of furniture, or disabled people, physically disabled people, to actually live an easier life with the things around them that come from IKEA. It was such an incredible idea. That came, in my belief, from what I've read and seen, because they had someone on the ground that wasn't totally 100% everything that we are in terms of physicality. So I think it's a massive opportunity. I really do.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I think that once you engage, when you become the patient or the person who is experiencing it, I've written prolifically about empathy by design and everything, but I think it's a step further than empathy. When you are living and feeling and experiencing whatever that challenge may be, it is so much easier to understand what the need is, how could you solve for it. So if you already have that type of brain who's thinking that way of coming up with solutions, and you're experiencing a problem, how might you go about solving for it? And and that's one of the things, interestingly, you bring that up. That's one of the things that really enticed me about leaving the advertising industry, because I felt a lot of what I was doing was more on the communication side. Now I get to be on the ground with the actual group of people I'm serving, like the audience. So one company, I work with the aging population, and then with under the sisterhood, women. And when we think about the aging population and really going through the feelings that they feel and experience and the challenges, helps you to really create and be able to affect change in a more meaningful way. So I couldn't agree more about that, about looking and experiencing that and being able to create with that in mind. Yeah. So talk about, I mean,
Mm.
I love what you're doing with your creative coaching. Why don't you tell us about that? What are you doing? How are you doing it? And yeah.
Sure. So, where do I start? So I came back from, with my McCann role, I went from Australia to Southeast Asia to America, New York, and I worked in their flagship um, for 2.5 years. And we did pretty well. We grew the business, we grew the creative profile, and I loved my job. I loved my job. And then COVID hit. Uh, and I just woke one morning with a knowing that I had to go home to be with my children. Um, so one thing a lot of people don't know about me, I actually posted about this recently on LinkedIn, is just before I went to New York, my husband left. He left me. He was supposed to come. Um, and after 22 years of marriage, it was a really big shock. And so there was other things that happened in my first year in New York, and it was really tough, really, really tough. It was body blow after body blow. But I got to a point where I was super, super happy. Um, but then when COVID hit, I had to come home to my children. I had to be with my children. And so I made a conscious decision to go back, to be with them, to spend more time. And then I ended up spending more time, wanting to spend even more time. So my tenure with McCann came to an end. Um, and then I had this striking realization that for most of my life, I had just been very much in the doing and not in the being. Um, and so I took myself off to TopiTopi. And while I was there, I really felt into what it is that I want to do. What impact do I want to make now? And that's how I came to coaching, because what I realized quite quickly is my favorite part of the job has always been the people. It's always been seeing people shine. Um, I've got a saying: the more stars there are, the brighter the sky shines.
Mm,
Um,
it's lovely.
and and also, I proved with my leadership style. I come from a place of love. Like I really do. I want to see people thrive. And I believe if you look after the people, the work, the awards, the business success, it all follows. It all follows.
Couldn't agree
And
more.
so I wanted to take my female soft skills, I suppose. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a pushover, um, but I wanted to show people that you can be a strong leader, but you don't have to be domineering, you don't have to be ego driven, you don't have to be the loudest voice in the room. You just need to actually be authentic and kind and have courage to be vulnerable. And so that was what I did when I worked in corporate, and that's what I wanted to actually bring to people, especially women um, who who are working with me now. So the coaching business is a mix of
Shut.
uh, pre, pre pre-prepared modules, um, and also conversation. And so it's very different for each person. So we have a we have a call. I get to understand what their position is, what it is they think they want. And then from there, I work at what I call a blueprint for success. So what I do with that is just look at what I think they need, and it might change along the way because things pop up. and some things take more resolution than others. And so bespoke for that person, it's tailored. And it seems to be having incredible success. So I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I also bring a layer of my spirituality for some people if they feel that they want that. If they want the connection, the soul guidance, which I'm also able to tap into. Not everyone wants that, and that's totally fine. But yeah, I work for agencies directly, and also individuals that have been finding me and coming to me and saying, "This is exactly what I need right now."
Oh,
Mm.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And that's such a gift to be able to give that back, to bring that one side. I mean, you made the comment, you think that you're a better creative leader than you were creative. I disagree with that, at least equal. But as we grow up in the business and the more senior we become, the bigger a leader we become. So taking those leadership skills and teaching the next generation and even our generation how to really own them and use them and lead from the heart. I think that that is a pretty brilliant idea, because I think that if one isn't feeling it creatively, it doesn't come out in the work. If you don't create an environment, and this could go for anything, it doesn't have to be for advertising, it could go for
Mm.
anything in life. It could go for creating the perfect spiritual retreat. If you're not creating an environment, if you don't understand what it takes to motivate, inspire, and breed that comfort level, and I'm not talking comfort level intellectually, I'm talking when you create a safe space for people to be in, they can show up as their best selves. And I think that what you're doing with your creativity, your executive, your leadership coaching, is taking that, and I think you're bringing your nature, which is creating this safe space to have an honest conversation, because I think it's really tricky in different environments to have that honest conversation about how you can get from point A to point B as a creative. And so I think that it's beautiful that you have these skills, and how lucky for the people on the receiving end, the companies, that if they want, they can have the spiritual side with that sort of healing, that energetic attachment to it or modality to it. That's really fantastic. Or what is are you getting, are more people interested, or is it like interested in you adding that additional side of yourself, which I think is a really wonderful side?
So where I'm at with the spiritual side, which I'll explain a little bit more in a minute, um, is I feel if I actually know, I have an inner knowing. I know if people are open to it, and so
Mm,
I won't bring it up unless I feel that it could help them. And so it's probably about 50-50. Uh, what it what it does is it helps make sense of um, where they're at and what their potential is. And I'll give you an example. There was one incredible woman that I channeled for, and I basically said to her, "You are a lion. You are a lion. You're majestic. You don't need to be aggressive and raw all the time. You just are. You have this presence. But what's happened is you've come into this agency. People were scared at you, so you roared. And then you got locked in a cage, and now you're acting like a mouse rather than a lion." And she cried and she said, "I used to dream I was a lion when I was a little girl."
wow.
And so all I did is I picked up her energy and I helped her make sense of her position,
Mm,
and how it was in her best interests to be. She didn't have to change the fact that she was a lion. She just didn't need to roar.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And it's like, just to have that innate capacity, like just to be able to bring that into a conversation or anything, is just so, it's just I think it's a really unique additional offering, if you will. You know what I mean by that? Like, like you wouldn't necessarily go in to a sort of coaching and anticipate that experience, which can be really magnificent and can really be helpful in terms of getting unstuck. So talk about, so you're doing the creative coaching, but when I introduced you, you told, you have this amazing retreat you've created, spiritual retreat called TopiTopi. Like, when did that all begin? I know you've had the dream for a while, but I think it would be wonderful for you to share that with everybody. And I know a lot of sisters, a lot of women have come up, and you're creating some really interesting spaces and modalities and offerings. So talk about that.
Yes. So, yeah. So my human design is I'm a manifesting generator. Um, and my universal rays, I've got three, which means that I have 3 out of 7 numbers, which is all about creativity and manifestation. And so I can't sit still. And I am driven by my intuition. And so when I came back from New York, as I said, I was with my children. They were in Sydney, but I had a house earlier on. The marriage had split up, and when that split up, uh, I moved to TopiTopi when I came back after 6 months. And when I was on the land spoke to me, and my channeling abilities seemed to get stronger and stronger. And so, for those that don't know what a channel is, it means that I can access different things. So, I can have a knowing around someone else's energy, but I won't go in unless I'm invited in. Um, I also started to channel light language, which is the language of the soul. It's the language of the heart. We all have it, but we forget. And I started to channel that and access that probably about 10 years ago now. Karatia mokolina sanaka tiamoka, kaya mokatianaka, ana masotoka kianaka, kiamoka. So that's an example of it. When I speak, sometimes I also sign with my hands, and sometimes a high vibrational toning or song will come through. Sometimes I'll pick up the energy of the land here, which is very Aboriginal. And so all of these started happening. And then with that, I started to create create space for people to be here so they could receive their healing from the land, and they could receive their guidance from me. And also, in the back of my mind, I've had the idea that I'll be doing creative retreats here with small groups. And so it's very much a builder, and they will come.
Hmm.
I've been very busy building. Uh, the place looks amazing now. There's so much more here. I look out over water and mountains. It's 5 acres. So much wildlife here, and I live here with my dog, Lovey, and I just have this incredible life where I'm doing these two things. So I'm doing the executive creative coaching, and I'm helping groups, and it's mainly small groups of women that will come and stay for a couple of days. I'll cook for them. They have crystal beds from John of God. I channel for them, infrared saunas, bushwalks, um, and they just have a really nice healing time. And then I've been layering on top of that local healers. So it's basically a model of plan your own retreat. And so you can come, and if a group of you wants to come and have yoga every morning, I can organize that. If you want body work, I could organize that. Kinesiology, chiropractic, shamanic healing. There are so many people in this area that I can just actually layer on whatever anyone needs. So I've got these two things that I'm doing, and I'm enjoying. I wish there were three of me, because I've also obviously upkeeping TopiTopi. So um, yeah, I'm just seeing what happens now.
Isn't isn't that an interesting part of like this phase of the journey is like you've done all these things, you've had so much success professionally and personally, and now you're sort of on this, and let me be careful. I don't want to deem it spiritual journey, but even the way you're doing your executive coaching just with through the heart, it just brings a different energy to play. And the fact that you made the comment earlier, which I think I couldn't agree with more. I relate so deeply to it, which is we're so busy doing that we're not being. And you were referring to yourself. I've been so busy doing. I'm not being. And I think this part of the journey allows us to be more and to see things, right? Like, because when you have time and
Yeah.
space, you can see things and you can be open and your heart becomes more
Mm.
expansive and everything. So I think that's really amazing. So moving right along, if we were to talk about your superpowers, and because I know you have so many, what would you say your superpowers are, June?
Um, I think the first, I had a different answer, but I'm actually going to, I thought about this. I think my first and foremost superpower is that I love people. I love, I
Mm,
love seeing people shine. Um, and I really am now committing my life to being of service. So whether that's from a spiritual point of view, or whether it's helping people in their career, or whether it's, just being a good friend. Um, I really do believe that's a superpower. And then my other superpower, I think, is my intuition, which is also linked with my channeling ability. Um, it's not, it doesn't define me. It's not all of who I am. And I was as surprised as anyone when this language started to come through. And that in itself is a story, because it actually started when I started to go to a place in Brazil, in Aberdania, which is where John of God, the spiritual healer, was. Um, and when the gifts started to come through, I had no idea what it was. But I wasn't scared. Uh, I was fascinated, and I just wondered why me. And um, I decided to work with it rather than shut it down. A lot of people shut it down, and trying to live these two ways have been has been very interesting. There's more joy in my life now, since I've really since I've really stepped out of corporate into this new world. I've realized that we spend so much of our time accumulating and chasing the dollar, and we're told these stories that we have to be successful, and to be successful you have to be really good at your job, and you have to do this and you have to do that, and then I need a bigger car, and then I need another house, I need an investment house, and then I don't need any of that. I need the sun on my back, I need the salt water to swim in, I need to hear kookaburras sing, I need to play with my dog. um, and I'm very privileged to actually have, at this stage of my life, the opportunity to actually be me.
mm. That's beautiful. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think June and I have been on a very similar path, meaning leaving the industry and taking a new route in our lives. And so it's been really interesting. And I couldn't agree more. I've been working on being out in the sun, being in nature worlds, being on the kayak, being on everything you described has been my world. Now, not at the expense of creating. I'm creating, building a company, doing all these things, but my priorities have shifted. Certain things don't matter as much to me, and certainly in terms of accumulating anything material. I couldn't agree more. So talk about how you use these amazing superpowers to help other women. How would you say that?
So I, I, I think that, I think I've covered it a little bit already, in that in terms of the creative coaching, I do not believe that there are enough women leaders. Um, su- Surprisingly or not surprisingly, um, the people that are approaching me generally for individual coaching are women. And so there's the small group of women leaders, creative directors and above that that are approaching me. They're coming to me because they want to be better, and they realize they need help. And again, I think that that's very female to actually do that. They pay themselves. The agency doesn't pay. If an agency pays, it's a different energy again, of course, just as valid. Um, so most of the people I'm getting are women. There is a beautiful man that I've just signed on also, and he found me and he said, I want to work with you because you work from a place of love. And
Mhm.
so if the
Mm,
question is, how am I helping women in the coaching business? It's really showing them by being me that have you don't have to get into the hard directive, more male qualities of being, but you can use emotional intelligence. You can lead from the heart, and you can be soft and graceful, and you can
mm,
also be powerful with that. So the the whole belief that kindness is a weakness, I really like spend a bit of time talking to that about to different people about that. So these qualities, authenticity, kindness, vulnerability, um, they have traditionally, a lot of them, been perceived as weaknesses. And what I'm doing with the woman I coach is saying, hey, you've probably got all of this in spades, so just use it. Just use it because it will serve you well. Um, so I'm doing it from that point of view. In terms of the spiritual channeling, it it's the fact of the matter is, pretty much 90% of the people I see are women. The small groups that have been coming to me and staying with me for group retreats have been women. Um, I haven't deliberately gone out there and said I'm only having women, but it seems to be that from a spiritual point of view, and I'm not talking about woo woo. I'm not woo woo. I'm smart cookie. I am not woo woo, but I
you're
am
a little
connected.
woo and smart
And
cookie.
but
Mm,
but but saying that, the 80%, probably 80%, 90% of the people that are working with spiritual gifts are women.
I
And
couldn't agree.
so if we can take those gifts, those powers of intuition, as we step into our feminine divine, incorporate, there will be a different kind of leader come through. And I'm not just talking about in advertising, I'm talking about generally. And so if people come here and they get some channel and they get some direction, and they realize who they really are as people, as women, then that is helpful for them. That's what they say.
Mm, mm. Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. And I like the way you just broke it up in terms of doing it through coaching, using your superpowers to help women in that way. And then and with what you're doing with your channeling and your spirituality and your coaching in that way, guiding women. And I think it's fantastic. If there's, I mean, it's Women's History Month. This has been an incredible conversation. You've made so much history in your career as you making history as a woman. If you were to leave women with any messages or anything you want to leave them with today, June?
Yeah, just always be your authentic self. Um, feel into your heart and try and get out of your head. Um,
Mm,
do what pleases you, and that's not about being selfish. That's about living your truth. Because when you live your truth, magic happens. You don't have to control everything. if you surrender and observe, you will go far further more quickly rather than trying to get involved and change and control. So it's about letting go, and then the energy will flow.
That's beautiful. I mean, and I think that's a great message to leave with women. Be your authentic selves and let go, let the energy flow. Thank you so much. This has been really interesting. Your story is amazing. And I'm so grateful to have this time with you, June. Thank you.
I'm very, I'm very grateful to know you, Elizabeth, and I haven't known you for a long time. You're an amazing woman. What you're doing with Under the Sisterhood is incredible. It really is incredible. And this is your superpower.
Mm. Well, I will tell you that every conversation I have, I leave the call. I feel guilty because my cup is always overflowing. And I feel like everyone I'm talking to is feeling seen and heard and celebrated and, being given their time and to your point of you liking to see people shine. It's a way women deserve to be shining. They're shining. They're doing so many amazing things and they deserve to be acknowledged, not just valued, acknowledged and celebrated. So this has been such a gift and, this conversation and of course our relationship, which goes back a long time. I've always felt so much support from you. So thank you so much, June.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening to Under the Sisterhood. If you haven't already, please give us a quick rating and review on Apple or Spotify. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn so you can hear from more amazing women. This podcast is created and hosted by Under the Sisterhood LLC and Elizabeth Elfenbein, produced by Elizabeth Elfenbein and Zach Slaff, and edited by Zach Slaff. The music is by Ayla Schaefer, her song, Rose.